Good evening. My name is Varun Grover. Today I'm taking up and will teach a very important topic of Indian freedom struggle. The topic is women's participation in the freedom struggle, how women had participated in the freedom struggle. So learning about the Indian freedom struggle is considered incomplete without having the knowledge of the participation and the sacrifices made by the women in it. Although not much is being written about them, but with the help of the very limited content available, with their personal records, with the autobiography of the women who participated in the freedom struggle, now a concerted effort is being made to include them as a part of the narrative. In the beginning, we can say that women hardly participated in the freedom struggle, but as time progressed, the participation of women had also progressed. They sometimes spearheaded the movement, even they crusaded the movement. Now talking about the women leader of the national movement. In this pic, you can see Aruna Asif Ali, Muthulakshmi Reddy, Sucheta Kriplani, Mridula Sarabhai, Lakshmi Sehgal, and Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. And in this pic, you can see Sarojini Naidu. All these women, among others, had participated in the freedom struggle. Now there is hardly any dispute among the historian or among the history lovers that women had participated in the freedom struggle. We all know that there were large number of women who had participated in the freedom struggle. They not only participated at the national level, but at the local level also. It was not only the Indian women who had participated in the national movement, but also the women of other nationalities who contributed for the nation's cause. So today I will be talking about two specific Irish women who made their impact in the national movement. First is Annie Besant. Annie Besant came to India in 1893 and she later settled here. In the later times, she got herself involved in the nationalist movement. She established the Indian Home Rule League. She even propagated the idea of self-government from India. Now, talking about the second Irish woman, Margaret Cousins. At that time, there was a demand all across the growing economy, all across the countries to have voting rights for women. Margaret Cousins worked for that cause. She encouraged the women, the Indian women, to protest, to fight for their rights, specifically for voting rights. So, the first wave of feminism, which swept across America and Europe, had its impact in India too. So, at the time when there was a growing influence of feminism in India, it also helped in the growth of the women's participation in the freedom movement. So, again, there was a demand by the women in different parts of the world to be given voting rights on par with men, and the same happened in India. So the Indian Women Association was formed in 1917. The primary purpose behind the formation of this organization was the women's right, including the adult suffrage. So a delegation from this organization had went to meet up the government officials in 1917-1918. So that was a successful meeting, as because of that meeting, government agreed to discuss this issue, and in the 1919, the famous under the Montague-Chelmsford reform, this issue was discussed, and this act was enacted. So in the coming decade, in the first half of the next decade, this issue was discussed in all the legislative councils of India. And in the mid 1920s, all the legislative council accepted the proposal and gave the assent to this topic, and they give the assent to the notion of ideas of women voting rights and their representation. Now, apart from this organization, there were other city-based organization as well, and the town-based organization as well, which were formed during that time. Even before the formation of Indian Women Association in 1911, another organization was formed in Mangalore in Karnataka by the name of Mahila Sabha. It was formed by women activist named Girija Bai. The purpose behind the formation of this organization was to discuss the issues of the women and to come up with the solution to those issues. As this was a successful organization, so the area of the working of this organization is that Mahila Sabha got expanded. Now women were encouraged. The women of this organization were encouraged to read journal, books, newspaper from the personal collection of Girija Bai. So now comes the time of Gandhian era. So during the Gandhian era, the position of the women or the participation of the women in the freedom struggle was given the required respect. Gandhiji himself enabled the women to come out of their homes on mass scale. Now I will read the quotes made by Gandhiji for the women. If by strength is meant moral power, then women is immeasurably men's superior. Men can never be a woman's equal in the spirit of selfless service with which nature has endowed her. Gandhiji referred women as disciplined soldiers of Indian freedom. Women is the companion of men, gifted with equal mental capacity. So all these quotes made by Gandhiji for the women only shows how Gandhiji had given importance to the participation of women, how he respected their participation. So now talking about the people, now talking about the women activists, women leaders who participated in the during the Gandhian era. So Mridula Sarabhai, as you can see in these pics, was a confidant of Gandhiji. She can be seen in many pics along with Gandhiji as she was working with him in all the places. So Mridula Sarabhai remained unmarried for her whole life. She sacrificed her personal wishes as well as a personal life for the sake of the nation, for the cause of freedom. Before the Gandhian era, if some women did not marry, then such kind of things were taken up by the society in the negative manner. But as the Gandhian era came, and people like Mridula Sarabhai or other women who did not get married for their life, now the situation was changes. Such things were taken up positively. So this was the change. This was one among the changes which were coming during the Gandhian era in the society. So another woman is Suchita Kriplani, who was a true Gandhian who actively participated in the freedom movement. She was also the first woman chief minister of Indian state. She was the founder of All India Mahila Congress. She was also a follower of Gandhian principle, and she worked with him tirelessly during the freedom struggle. Now talking about the women in the Khilafat movement. There was a limited participation by women in the Khilafat movement. So Abadi Bano Begum, who was popularly known as B Amma, she was the mother of the Ali brother. She was the mother of the Ali brother, Muhammad Ali, Maulana Muhammad Ali, and Maulana Shaukat Ali. She would not care about the Parda system and she addressed the gatherings. She also encouraged and motivated lots of women to come forward, to come out of their home, participate in the Khilafat movement. Now talking about the women in the non-cooperation movement. There was a limited participation by women in the beginning. In the beginning itself, as a sign of protest, women went to jail, which was firstly defied by Gandhiji. It did not get the support from Gandhiji, but as the time progressed, he later changed his stance because the wife of and the sister of Deshbandhu Chitranjan Das in 1921 got arrested. So after that, after seeing this incident, Gandhiji changed his position and he himself and now encourage the women to go to the jails and protest in this manner. He himself once quoted to the women of Gujarat, a yagna is incomplete without women being a part of it. A yagna is incomplete without women being a part of it. Now he actively motivated the women to join politics and asked them to attend the Ahmedabad session of 1921 of Indian National Congress. He asked women to attend this session, and as a result, a large number of women attended this session. Famous names, women leader who attended this session were Vijayalakshmi Pandit, Begum Muhammad Ali, Begum Hasrat Mohani, A.M. Khwaja, Uma Nehru, Sarla Devi Chaudhary, Anusuya Sarabhai, among others. They all attended the Ahmedabad session. Now, attending the Ahmedabad session transformed the lives of these women because now they get a sense of confidence that they can also do something. Earlier, there was a limited participation, but now the leader of the nation, Gandhiji, are encouraging them to participate in as much number as they can. So when the peak time of non-cooperation movement came, government arrested many male leaders of the non-cooperation movement. Now the charge of the movement came directly in the hands of the women. Women defied the women defied the arrest. They addressed the large crowds, and they were even ready to go to the jails if the need arises. And whenever the need arose, they went to the jail. Now, talking about the women participation in civil disobedience movement. Now, this is the major civil disobedience movement was the major turning point in the women's role in the freedom struggle. First of all, Gandhiji did not allow women to participate in his Dandi March. But there was this women activist, there was this famous women leader named Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay. She was disheartened by this decision of Gandhiji. So she directly reached to Gandhiji. She made her case. She discussed this thing with Gandhiji and ultimately was being able to persuade him to allow women to participate in the Dandi March and in the civil disobedience movement. So now the women section of the Seva Dal. Seva Dal is the voluntary organization of Indian National Congress. So the women section of the Seva Dal suddenly started mobilizing women all across the country to participate in the civil disobedience movement. Now there were regular meetings. Now there were leading processions and making and selling of salt and making and selling of salt, such activity could be seen all over the country. And it was also true that all such activities by the women often landed them in the jails. Now, not only women were helping the national movement, but they were also getting strengthened in their family. Now, the position of women also was growing. Now they were becoming independent. Now they were having the choice of either marry or not marry. They were not being questioned, and even if they are not liking the existing marriage, they were even allowed, like the situation was like the situation was going in the country because women were empowered, so they were even parting ways with their husbands if they are not liking the marriage. Now the intercaste marriages started taking place. Even in few cases the interreligious marriages also happened. Now when we talk about the women in the Quit India movement. Now, this movement further strengthened the position of the women because in the beginning itself, their male counterparts preemptively were arrested by the government. Now, again, the charge of the movement were in the hands of the women. They again themselves tried. Not only was women was able to evade the arrest, but they kept the movement going as well as the movement was growing. They were doing everything from producing pamphlet to circulating literature, and they even started the freedom radio. So the Usha Mehta, she was another woman crusader. She was a college going girl who ran a secret radio station during the Quit India movement. So another famous women leader who participated in Quit India movement was Aruna Asif Ali. She is also known as Grand Old Lady of Independence. She hoisted the INC flag at Gwalior Tank Maidan in Mumbai during the Quit India movement. She was the founder of National Federation of Indian Women, the women wing of the CPI. So she was a communist. Edited the Congress Party monthly magazine Inqilab, because Congress at that point of time consisted of right wing leader, left wing leader, as well as the leader of the center. She also started journal Weekly and newspaper Patriot for the upliftment of women's status. In 1958, she served as the first elected mayor of Delhi. So in this way, women in the beginning of the Gandhian era were helpers to their male counterpart. But as time progressed, from Khilafat movement to non-cooperation movement to civil disobedience movement, Dadi March to Quit India movement. Now the position of women empowered, and now they are not the helper. They are rather the they are rather the crusaders. They spearheaded the movement. They actively now participate in the movement. So women now not only participated in the non-violent movements of the Gandhiji, but even in the revolutionary activities in other regions. Majorly in Eastern India, women participated in the revolutionary activities. College going girls like Samiti, Sunita, Birla Das, Kalpana Datta, Pratilata Vadekar, Suhasini Ganguly, Kamala Das Gupta, Kalyani Das, they all participated, among many other women, they all participated in the revolutionary activities. They formed the physical culture clubs, and they secretly read the revolutionary literature. And they also participated in the famous Chittagong Armory raid of 1930 on the call of Surya Sen. Surya Sen was the leader. So every male and female uh, revolutionaries participated in Bengal, today's Bangladesh, in Chittagong, participated in that raid. Prithilatha Vadekar, at just the age of 21, sacrificed her life after fatally being wounded, but she refused to get arrested. So, in this way, such women made the supreme sacrifice. So, now women made bold choices, they protested in the streets, and they found themselves in the legislature and even in the jails. Freedom struggle not only empowered the women, but even sometimes got depended upon them. They participated in non-violent as well as in the revolutionary movement. We salute our freedom fighter. Jai Hind.